Jimenez Zoom rules.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yep. Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to today's Partnership Grants Committee meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. To use the raised hand feature by phone, dial *9 on your phone's dial pad. You can use *9 to both raise your hand and the same to lower your hand. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate discussion. Going forward, all commission and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. Because this is a video conference, please be aware of your surroundings behind you. And then finally, some troubleshooting tips. For those using Zoom on a computer, when on mute, holding down the space bar will temporarily unmute you. If you use your phone to dial into this meeting, please be sure your computer's microphone is on mute to avoid audio feedback issues. And while joining audio via computer is highly recommended, if an individual loses audio, they can call in separately using the Zoom conference number. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Danielle. So welcome, everybody. I'm Eric Iskin. I'm chair of the Partnership Grants Committee, and that's what we're doing right now. So just be sure you're on the right airplane here. Hope you intended to join this meeting. So let's see, I guess we need to do some roll call.
Yes, Iskin,
Here.
Michelle,
Here.
Culkin,
Here.
Cruz, Lee, Benarelli,
Here.
Judge Daskell.
Here.
All right, I'll check on our liaisons. Selena Copeland from LAC. Bonnie Huff. State Bar staff. Danielle McRae.
Here.
Colleen Cito.
Here.
And then Dan Pesamanik.
Here.
We do have quorum, Eric.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Do we have any members of the public who are present and wish to make some comments?
There's no one.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can move on to the agenda. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I kind of remember it at least a little bit. If I screw up, you'll let me know, Crystal. But anyway, so the first item is approval of the meeting action minutes from our last meeting. I actually had a comment about those minutes that I've already communicated to Crystal. There was an inaccuracy in terms of the summary of our discussion of how we're going to proceed with PG 2023.
Let me scroll down. This is in track changes. Just to clarify, Eric will not be reviewing all 31 applications. The ad hoc review team will be comprised of one or two commission members. And then staff will review the remaining proposals. Commissioners will be assigned a set of applications. So it just clarifies that it'll be the committee members who will be participating in the ad hoc review teams.
Okay. So with that correction, are there any other comments? All right. Do we have a motion for approval? I also move. We need a second.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second.
All right, we can do roll call vote. Iskin,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Gelkin,
Yes.
Cruz, Lee, Benarelli.
Yes.
All right, motion passes
All
unanimously.
right. Crystal, you might want to step. What's the next item on the agenda? Is it a report from you?
Yes, so the next item, let me share my screen. Is just a quick administrative update regarding the Partnership Grants 2.0. All of the, as you know, the committee and the commission made the approvals at its last meeting. We've just moved forward with the administrative steps. So we've released grant monies to grantees with completed applications, and those grants are underway. They started April 1. So we're just on track and just wanted to provide that quick update.
Okay, great. All right, so I guess we really have two major items of business here, but mostly having to do with getting the 2023 PG proposal evaluation process launched. And so you all received materials about 3 exemplar projects, and our task here is to do an initial calibration amongst the group of those projects. So let's see, Crystal, did you have any kind of material summarizing?
I had some additional information. I'll just share quickly.
Okay,
before we
great,
get started.
great. Thank you.
Just as a quick overview of for the 2023 partnership grants, 31 proposals were submitted with a total requested amount of 2.899. 034. The available funding for this grant year is still pending. Just for reference, 2.53 million was distributed in 2022, and that's for the annual grants and not the PG 2.0, which was a one-time funding opportunity. Just as a reminder, this is our 12-month grant period, so it runs from January 1 through December 31st, 2023. I just had a couple of notes here for the committee's consideration, and we'll discuss this further in terms of scoring rubric considerations. As you may know, the 2022 and PG 2.0 partnership grants were subject to the same scoring rubric, and that's why we had to use a consistent interpretation, given this is a new grant cycle year, and we also have updated some of the scoring rubric definitions, the category definitions, to streamline what was discussed or recommended by the Rules Committee. Just want to let you know, like, it's still open in terms of how we're going to apply, how the committee decides to apply the rubric for these batch of applications. So there's some scenarios that may come up. I just noted a couple of select scoring rubric categories: project impact, funding priorities, project budget, and evaluation are just a couple that we may want to consider when looking at this batch. Again, very different than our PG 2.0 batch, which were a majority of new, really innovative projects. This set of applications are more so projects seeking continued funding or maybe trying to enhance an existing project. So a couple of considerations. Just briefly, I have an overview of the 3 selected proposals that everyone was able to review and score. Thank you again for sending your scores in advance of the meeting. I'll share the spreadsheet after this so we can take a look a little closer. The first selected proposal was from Inland Counties Legal Services. This is their Consumer Rights Clinic expansion project. They're requesting 151,000 of partnership grant monies with a total project budget of about 319,000. The counties that this project would serve would be Riverside, San Bernardino, and it is a currently funded partnership grant project. The project aims to provide legal assistance to unrepresented indigent consumers with debt collection lawsuits. The project staff will serve pro se defendants in the courthouse or virtually and prepare responsive pleadings and settlement offers through workshops or clinics. Just noting the numbers here from the application: 200 individual services through 180 self-help clinics, which they anticipate to provide for the grant year. The project currently operates in San Bernardino Superior Court, and it's seeking to expand to the Riverside Superior Court. Eric, I can pause here. Is it better to talk about all 3, or did you want to? I can pause and then sort of switch screens for the spreadsheet so we can do the scoring. I'm open either way. I have all.
You know what? I'm gonna suggest that we just go ahead now and look at the calibrations, and then we can go on to the other ones.
Sure. All right, very similar to what we did not too long ago. I have everyone's scores from their individual scoring rubrics here. Took the average of the scores and then the standard deviation. Staff also had a pre-calibration session earlier this week, and those scores are just noted up here for reference, just as another discussion point to figure out how we should apply the scoring rubric for this set of applications. I will say, I feel like there was so the range in terms of the total scores was pretty high. 61 to 83 is the range. Sorry, I just got the score, so I wasn't able to highlight any outliers, but let me do that real quickly. we can talk about it.
I messed mine up a little bit on this one. I
Okay.
didn't understand. I thought this was just for Riverside. So,
Yeah, I think it's for both. It's for both
Yeah,
counties. I think
I
that's
see that now. Yeah.
Well, oh, actually, wait a minute. I guess I thought I did too. So I thought that this proposal was solely to expand to
Yes.
Riverside, and that they were separately going to be dealing with San Bernardino. That's the way I read it.
Exactly. Now, so what's this budget? Doesn't make any sense. That's why I'm so low.
Yeah, because they framed the whole thing, the budget and the staffing was all framed in terms of just Riverside. You know, we're going to add one attorney.
Well, under court involvement, it had the number of hours in each of the courthouse, and I saw San Bernardino there. So I think staff, and then feel free to chime up anyone in the staff team as well. I think it was the Riverside, and then they were San Bernardino, and then they were expanding to Riverside, which is why they were also requesting an increased grant amount than they previously requested for 2020.
Well, I assumed they were putting in the San Bernardino just for context.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the rest of the proposal was all framed in terms of Riverside.
You know, there are places where they talk about what's happening in San Bernardino, and their expectation is to, you know, get that started in Riverside. I will admit that this is a kind of a rollout that doesn't jump right off the page. Our form doesn't make it easy to tell what's going on here, and we spent some time both trying to figure out how to understand the application and how to prioritize it, which was a whole other area.
Well, but if you look at the budget, Dan, I mean, the budget just talks about, like, I didn't memorize it, but I think roughly one attorney or something, you know, and that was all about Riverside.
Well, if I can chime in, I think the thing that clued me in was just looking at their hours. So they're doing Monday, Wednesday in San Bernardino, and then Tuesday, Thursday in Riverside. And so I assumed that they were just doing those 4 days a week and just going to each courthouse every other day. Because I was worried about supervision, but I was like, oh, they're just hopping between those two. That was my interpretation.
Well,
I think that now that I look at this, it seems clearer that they're talking about both counties, right? I mean, that's too much money for just Riverside.
Yeah.
so the budget or the staffing is intended to be spread between San Bernardino and Riverside. That's how everybody's understanding this.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know if that would impact anything I said.
It does look like, I'll just, to advance for the calibration purposes, it looks like the committee, all the committee members were aligned on several categories, project impact and administration. Project budget, it looks like there is a couple of outliers here, and then for continuity planning and evaluation. So
well, I guess maybe we should have people who are other than meets explain what their basis was.
Well, I told you mine on the budget, but you can change that to the meets. Now that I understand it's money for both counties.
Also, sorry, Jason, don't mean to put you on the spot.
I also have a question, but I can go after.
Okay, maybe we can get started with court involvement. As you can see, the staff score was at 18. I think we were also between like a meets and then exceeds just because of the expansion, and it was by the request of the court, which seemed compelling to us. But I am curious, Jason, as to maybe some of the reasons why you had them at an exceeds.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that the big thing that drove it home for me was the quarterly, and then more frequently for Riverside in the expansion, the meetings with the court exec to go over the program. Having worked with partnership grants in the past in Orange County, which is a pretty large court, like not typically the court exec that you're meeting with to coordinate those kind of things. So that level of involvement in the executive management of the court, I think, speaks to a level of integration at the court and responsiveness to issues that come up or concerns that might be raised, that the court exec's going to be able to marshal resources in a way that, I'll use an example from Orange County, like the director of self-help or family law facilitator services or something like that is just not as positioned to do. So I put a lot of stock into that because that's a fairly high level meeting, especially on a quarterly basis. And for a court as big as San Bernardino or even Riverside, I think that's a pretty significant commitment from the court to meet and discuss those issues regularly.
Is
Was
that
that-
Sue Ryan?
In San Bernardino is Nancy Everhart.
Oh, I thought, because Sue Ryan was on this committee.
Yes. I think she was in Riverside.
She's Riverside?
Yeah,
So that would be
she's-
why.
But Bonnie would know.
Yeah, she's not the court, she's certainly a court manager, but she's not the court CEO.
Oh, she's not.
To Jason's point, right.
Is
That
that-
the CEO is top of the heap.
Mhm.
And so Sue is a great manager, but
I
not,
see.
I guess
I
my,
think to Bonnie's point, I think it would be unsurprising and ideal to have court management involved, someone who's in the management structure, but for the court executive to be actively involved was surprising in a good way. At least that was my take on it.
maybe I didn't focus on the court exec. Just the idea of meeting with court personnel on a regular basis is fairly typical for these projects. But you're saying that the fact that the court exec is involved makes this special?
That's my take, yeah, is that the court exec being actively involved, in a more judicial role, it'd be like akin to the presiding judge at a large court being actively involved from the administration side. So I think that's, to me, that I put significance on it, and there's not a whole lot of splitting difference in numbers. It's either exceeds or meets. So for me, it's like, well, that kind of put me over. From meets would be like you're just meeting with the departmental or manager that's kind of closely associated with the project. But to have someone at an organization-wide level of responsibility is a step beyond that.
So I'd have to go back and look at that. Try to understand. Crystal, do you have the project application handy just to see where that is said? I just want to flag that for my own future reference. Maybe look for that.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quickly. It wasn't an active window on mine. I think Will had his hand up. I don't know if that was related to
Yeah,
the-
go ahead, Will. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I probably would have scored it like 18 as well if that was an available number. It felt like this court was taking affirmative action a little bit beyond what I've seen in other applications in terms of space and utilities and providing court record access and coordinating with the other court services were things that I highlighted. But since I see other applications that also do that, I was like, well, I'll leave it at 15, but I was leaning heavily towards exceeds.
Can maybe save time on the other issues that I'm highlighted for and say that I was on the fence and kind of leaned one way, but I would probably calibrate the other way now that I'm seeing where everyone else is falling. So I think that's kind of natural for me without much discussion, because I didn't feel super strongly about any of those. The only one that I felt strongly about was the court involvement piece.
So you want to change those all to meets, Crystal, for Jason?
Jason, did you mean the project budget, continuity planning, and eval?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then, sorry, Judge Jaskell, I just noted, I think you had them at a below. Let me know if that's wrong. I was transcribing a lot of numbers, so
That's correct. And my reason for doing that was that this is a project that says it's only going to help one side in the clinic. And I didn't see enough discussion of that to make me feel comfortable that the court understands that the clinic will only be helping one side. So I thought that reflected on court involvement, just because there wasn't much, if any, discussion about whether the court understood that only one side would be assisted and what the court planned to do about that.
Is that a bad thing? Only represent one side?
It doesn't have to be, but if you're only representing one side, there should be a reason for it. I mean, it should be a good reason. And generally, I think in partnership grants, we want some explanation of what, if anything, the project is going to do for the people on the other side, or an explanation that they're all represented anyway. They don't, we don't need to worry about them.
Wouldn't that, that's because I guess what I would think would be the explanation. If you got a consumer debt thing, they're usually, banks or lenders or whatever, and probably going to have counsel, whereas the people on the other side may not, likely won't.
Yeah, so what I thought was interesting is that the was that the restraining orders? No, I believe there are two proposals for consumer clinics. There's the Lisnick proposal, which, as I read it, said it will serve both sides. And then there's the ICLS proposal, which says it will serve only one side in the case. So I mean, I didn't really understand why. Well, I mean, as I said, there could be reasons for serving only one side, but if you're going to do that, I think the court has to be on board.
And I think that's a follow-up that we can definitely ask the applicant after the meeting. And now I will also say, for 2023 partnership grants, we have much more time, a little bit more time than PG 2.0. So we definitely have time for follow-up. Sorry, Dan, you had your hand raised?
I just raised it. That was very quick, but I want to point out that on the Lisnick proposal, they might have been saying serving both sides because they add a mediation component.
Right.
So just a possible reason why that came up.
I read that they would serve plaintiffs and defendants.
If on the commercial side, my understanding of this litigation is that you're really talking about people who are, judgment debtors, or who just haven't, paid up on their, installment contract. These tend to be people stuck in the middle, and you're helping them get out of it.
That's what they said. Most of them are that way. Yeah.
And some of them are going to involve mediations, at which point I think it becomes more bilateral, or involving both sides. But I think mostly these aren't people that are up against other people who would likely to be, eligible clients.
So, Will, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like follow up on Judge Jaskell's concerns, because I realize on the partnership grants RFP, we do talk about that, and they definitely say that they will be only assisting defendants because most plaintiffs are represented by attorneys. So I think it is worth paying attention to. I have feelings about that particular rule, but as long as it's a rule, I agree we should take note. And I had a separate question, which was on the evaluations. Maybe I've misunderstood, but the evaluations that go up come from the 2021 calendar year, so they get a year and 3 months to submit evaluations.
So yeah, so in terms of the evaluations, it is the 2021, which will be the most recent. And if it's applicable, if a project's reapplying, they'll attach it to the application, which is a new thing that we added. And I do have, we do want to give them some time after the grant year concludes to get their data all together. So that's why they're usually released in January and due in March.
Yeah, okay. So on this one, I had some concerns that they only served 80 people last year. That's how I read it. And I think that didn't meet their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And is that accurate?
Yeah, so and that's a good point. I think so staff hasn't had a chance to do like a deep dive into the findings, but the trend that we've been reading is it's really a lot of it's related to COVID in terms of why a number of programs didn't meet their goals for the year, court closures, as well as COVID, that also impacted the 2021 projects. So I didn't know how that would factor in for this round, but it is an additional data point that we have that the committee now has access to. Or
That was also true with Lisnick, and I tended to accept that explanation myself. So I wasn't too upset by that. But were you able to find, Crystal, the reference to the ED, the executive director of the court Jason was referring to?
let me.
Yeah. I was just looking at it.
I'm in the wrong application. Let me see.
It's page
this is
6
Liz.
of 27. Oh,
Man, might be in the wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well, Chief Executive Officer, Court Counsel, or their designee. But they were suggesting that one of those would meet with the ICLS. Yeah, that I guess when I look at that language, it's like, okay, you know, maybe the CEO will meet, maybe council will meet, somebody will, they're going to designate somebody to meet with ICLS on a quarterly basis. So that's kind of why I thought, well, all right, so what?
yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for flagging that, Crystal.
I'll go back to the spreadsheet. As it nets out with the average, it goes back to a 15. So I think there's definitely follow-up questions that ICLS should provide about the serving one side. But currently, in terms of having a calibration score, would the committee be comfortable with a 15 for now, noting that we do need to follow up to get the supplemental information. Yeah. You don't have to, I can't see everyone's faces, so let me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Could I add another question for follow-up? Do they have
Mhm.
a Spanish evaluation form? I assume they must, but they didn't upload it.
I can follow up about that too. Oh, in terms of the evaluation report.
No, for the customer survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
It looks like they're using a translation tool to translate document assembly templates. So presumably they could do that for the survey, but I'm not sure if that's an ideal mechanism to do so. And I would tend to think not. I see Daniel shaking his head no.
We can follow up. I did also wanted to flag for evaluation, just to bring up, staff had an exceeds during a calibration session. We just wanted to raise a couple of points and run by them. Anyone on the staff team, feel free to chime in, but I'll take a look at my notes. I think we were looking at the, sorry, I don't have my notes in terms of why we were in exceeds.
Well, I'll tell you, I made a note that the application referred to a review of court data on debt collections as one way of evaluating, which, you know, theoretically seemed interesting to me and might have merited a 10, but they didn't really seem to have any definite plan to do that. It was like, yeah, maybe we'll look at data on debt collections, but it didn't seem like that, you know, yes, we're going to look at 10 cases and we have this person who's going to do it, going to do a report. So I don't know. I just wasn't personally that impressed by that.
Okay. I think we just had noted focus groups, client focus groups, which is it's more comprehensive than the surveys, like in addition for their methods. But if anyone else in the staff team has any other notes, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I'll share my notes. I think what stood out for me was that they were going to continue to work with a research fellow at UC Irvine in terms of collecting consumer debt information, lawsuit data, and evaluating the implementation of the document assembly services.
That was this one? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Mhm.
I gave them bonus points for that, but I didn't give them evaluation. Okay.
All right, so then the other deviation was about funding priority. And I think this is also another like topic that we really want to get some guidance on from the committee in terms of how to apply funding priorities for these batch of applications. Just skimming the three that were selected for calibration as well as the other ones down the line, I think we're noticing a couple of trends. Some projects are reapplying and seeking to expand either in another county or in another courthouse, such as Inland County's projects. Other projects may have been operating, but this is their first time seeking partnership grant funding. I think those are the two so far that come to mind, but I think historically we've looked at prior years funded, but we wanted to know if any of those scenarios would warrant considerations to bumping up their funding priority score.
Well, I was thinking of this as a totally new project for Riverside. That's why I gave it the 20. If we're now looking at this as a combined project, which has previously been funded, even though they're expanding it, I probably would bump them down to a 16.
Do any of the other committee members have any thoughts about funding priorities or where you landed, where you did?
Since I'm an outlier here, I will chime in that because they were expanding to a more rural county, I'm far from my microphone, hope you can hear me okay. More rural county, and because I think for other projects, this might count as a new project. If it had been after their 5 years, they could reapply as a new project. And then just helping people escape the poverty trap, because usually until you declare bankruptcy, the consumer debt stays there haunting you forever. So I think that's where I came down high.
Well, again, Will, I think I'm just going to channel you and say that we're really not incorporating, kind of the merits of the service here. This is more of a years question, funding priority. So yeah, I mean, it's a very meritorious service. I don't think anybody would dispute that.
Could you expand a little more on that?
Yeah, I mean, the funding priority dimension here is really primarily, I think, directed to privileging newer projects. That's the idea. It's chronological mostly, rather than kind of merit-based. In fact, you were the one who made that point, I think, in the 2022 PG 2.0 review. You were kind of criticizing us for kind of blending the merits into this funding priority thing.
Well, that was my mistake. No,
no, I think you were right. Actually, I think you were actually right. I acknowledge that you were right as we continued to go down the road. But anyway, you can keep yours, obviously, but I would move mine down to 16.
Christina, you had your hand raised.
I might need to move mine up, but I don't consider the Riverside main courthouse to be rural. That's why I was at a 3. That's rural?
The bump up would because they're trying it out in a new courthouse. So that would be like a continuing project, but it also in a new courthouse. So I think I'm trying to figure out what a 4 looks like, or the review team wants some clarity because there's so many weird different scenarios.
Well, my main question is the Riverside main courthouse considered rural? Because it's not in my mind, but I just heard Will, and Will considers it to be rural. So you can bump me up to the 16, but I would like clarification on that if possible.
I was thinking of the county, but because if we went by courthouses,
yeah,
I think most of these courthouses are near really big towns or cities. But I guess I would appreciate clarification on that. How should we interpret that?
Well, maybe you could Crystal, can you read the definition of the funding priority thing so we can be reminded of what it says?
But while I do that, I think Jason has his hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
I might be stepping on toes, but I was going to say that, I kind of was middle of the road primarily because the guidelines here say that grants will be awarded with the principal intention of providing seed funding for new projects and projects in their 2nd to 5th year of funding. So I don't know, I guess to the question presented, I'm not sure if I should be calibrating differently but it seemed like there was nothing quite unique other than adding the Riverside, but it's the same project and expansion. And all else being equal, if that's what they're competing against, to me, it's like, well, then it's fine. They're on equal footing. But it didn't seem like, oh, we got to fund this to seed this program and get it started, because they've already got kind of the seed funding from the San Bernardino aspect of the project.
How long has San Bernardino been in effect? Is it just 1 year?
I think they're a 2-year
Two.
project and they're applying for a 3rd year.
Oh,
Because I will say, like, we do have a batch of proposals, some that are in the same courthouse year after year, and they're more or less the same. Do we warrant points to credit points to ICLS for funding priorities if they're trying to increase their span of services by providing services in a new courthouse? Because it's not, I don't think it's captured in a prior scoring rubric category. Jason, go ahead.
I mean, just throwing this out there as a way to kind of like give a calibration mechanism. Maybe it's that, if it's brand new, completely novel project, and fresh, that's your 5.
Mhm.
And then your 4 is like, hey, you've kind of started it somewhere, but now you're adding new, in like expansion or whatever. And I don't know if that means it's really a 1, 2, 3 scoring instead of a 1 through 5 scoring, but it seems like there should be some mechanism as I think about it, there should be some credit for expansion to other geographic areas or jurisdictions.
Go ahead, Will.
Thank you. I would appreciate, I guess, a more conversation in the future on funding priorities, because I think this trips us up a lot, or at least I'll speak for myself. It trips me up a lot.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Okay. And
get rid of.
Christina, to your point, because I was like, oh gosh, maybe I just don't know geography.
Right.
I did look it up, and 95% of Riverside is not rural population, but because it's so big, it's still 100,000 people are rural. Which makes it almost the largest population of rural, or close to the top of rural population in the state of California by county.
Don't they have courthouses in rural areas that those people go to?
Good question. I don't know the answer.
It might be the query, how many of those 200 people that they're going to serve are in that rural population?
So let me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call on Elizabeth in a minute, but let me just make a comment. So the rural thing, Will, again, this is a comment you made, but that's something we can factor in at the end after we calibrate everything. If we want to give extra points to a project that's rural, we could do that. But right now, the funding priority is really not a rural versus urban situation. It's really seeding new projects. I think that's what we should be looking at.
Well, no, I mean, the guidelines do talk about rural.
Under funding priority?
Yes.
Oh, they do? Okay, sorry.
After their 2nd to 5th year of funding, and then it talks about like rural. And then
Okay. So that's the consideration for allowing it to continue to be seeded after their 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, and apologies for being late to the meeting today. I did just want to chime in on the rural issue of whether Riverside is rural or whether this project is in a rural place. We typically follow what Jim Meeker through the Access Commission, how they've defined rural counties. And so I'm trying to look up the report right now to get that information. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we do typically have a source we follow to determine whether a location is rural. And so if you could just hang on while I try to find that, then hopefully we can have an answer before the meeting's done.
Well,
Is it?
that would be useful, but this is not a project that is going beyond its 5th year. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. That's right.
But it's still prioritized if it's rural.
That I don't see in the explanation.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we should look to the chronology, but I mean, I like
I see
Jason's
what you're saying.
suggestion. I think Jason made a good suggestion. If you have a project that's expanded, maybe it's existed already, but it's expanded, maybe it's in the 4 or 3 range. Give them credit for that.
I'm happy to bump mine up to 16.
Great. And then Jason, are you up for 16 as well?
I suppose. Yes, sure. Let's do it.
I will say for the funding priority, because there's 31 proposals we're looking at, there may be variations in terms of the scenarios. So I think we'll definitely have to visit at the main meeting and maybe present like what the buckets look like. And if the committee can get on the same page, we can then we can update this funding priority score so we clearly know what a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 looks like. So it's hard with only 3. I acknowledge that, but we just wanted to get some initial thoughts, especially with these 3 different scenarios. So the average score brings it to 17. Well, just checking in again. Did you want to stay at your 20 for now?
I guess it would. I'm curious on the rural versus not rural.
I guess it doesn't
That
matter
would tip
because
me.
it's only year 3. That's
So
what Judge Jaskell was pointing out.
I guess I'm how so? I'm not sure I understand.
I'm reading the guidelines and it says under number 2, projects requesting funding beyond their 5th year that serve rural areas, blah, 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 are prioritized. It does not appear to me, and I didn't really realize this, that if they're in their first 5 years, it doesn't matter if they're rural or not. Is that right?
Well, that's how I read, but that's only for funding priorities.
Yeah, that's what it says. I always thought rural, if you're rural, you get a bump.
I think it's also, we do have a handful of projects that are beyond the 5th year and they continue to get funding just because they're unable to obtain other sources,
Yeah.
just because it's really difficult. So I think that priority level was specifically for that scenario. Dan, you had your hand raised?
Only to say what you just said. This was specifically in response to some rural programs that had gone well beyond the 5-year level, but had to be kept funded because otherwise there would be nothing in those areas. So that was a carve out just for that. And then it got bigger and bigger. So this conversation is really overdue and it's also really difficult. We are challenged by this question for every one of these.
Can we move on to innovation?
Yeah, I can carry the 17 for now, and I'll mark it red. I think all the funding priority scores for the projects for now will be sort of tentative until we've had a discussion after looking at the whole batch, and then bring it back at the main meeting. Innovation, I think mixed bag. We had 2 to 3 points. Will and staff also awarded some innovation points. I think it was ours was related to the doc assembly tool and how they plan to utilize that for the project evaluation and other aspects of the project. Will, what were your specific reasons for granting innovation points?
Oh, it was the partnership with the research fellow and to evaluate that automated document piece, which was another, I considered adding innovation points for that, but I think more programs are engaging in that. And if not, maybe it would be, maybe I'd tack on a few more for calibration purposes, I'll say. Thank you.
I guess just checking in with the rest of the committee who didn't score innovation points, whether or not you're persuaded to award a couple or keeping it. I think the average score rounds up to a 0 because there's so many zeros. So
I can go up. I can go up to 2, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will too.
Eric?
I guess I didn't see the use of technology to compile documents as being particularly innovative. Isn't everybody more or less doing that?
No.
Yeah, I think they are. At least a lot of people are. Really?
I think that what's happening in this particular project is that frequently defendants are buried under massive discovery. The kind of litigation strategy that's being implemented is to just litigate them into a default, and the answer is to automate the responses and even to turn discovery back around on them. So there's a bigger burden in these cases than in something like a DV restraining order or a UD answer. To generate more documentation, it covers more stuff, and it just gets more complicated for these kinds of cases generally.
All right, you can put me on it too. I'll accept your argument for now.
All right, going down the line, Jason, are you persuaded?
Now you've all made me the outlier. Yeah. No, I will go to the 2. That's fine.
Great. So ICLS Consumer Rights Clinic calibrated score is a 73. Let me share my screen again to go over the next project. All right, Legal Aid Society of San Diego. This is their South Bay Restraining Order project, requesting $120,000 partnership grant funding. Total budget is $175. County served San Diego. It is not currently funded by partnership grant monies. The project seeks to offer a full-time domestic violence, civil harassment, elder abuse restraining order clinic at the South County branch of the San Diego Superior Court, 140 hours a month. The project staff is 1 staff attorney, 1 advocate. There's volunteers, volunteer attorneys, students, I believe interns as well. The project will help litigants complete necessary paperwork and ensure the court receives necessary information when making decisions about restraining orders. A number of anticipated services is 3,000 individual services and 240 self-help clinics.
What do you think that means, 3,000 individual services? What they're going to actually help 3,000 people do forms for restraining orders? Is that how you interpret it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw numbers similar for a couple of LA County projects for both 2022 partnership grants and PJ 2.0. I think maybe volume there's a lot, and they're also at the courthouse full time. So I think maybe that's how they estimated the number.
So I thought individual services was separate from number of people served, because sometimes people come back to a clinic maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times, and are each of those counted as an individual service? That was what I thought.
You always have problems with this.
Oh, okay.
These numbers, these like how they're interpreted.
I mean,
Right.
I just don't know why we can't be clearer about this. I just say this every time. Can we get back to them and ask them what this means? Like, how many people are they going to actually do domestic violence forms for?
I think it includes clinic attendees, like in a group setting.
That's how was the 3,000 calculated?
Yeah, well, just explain to us what you mean. What do you, I mean, yeah.
The way it looks in their proposal, they don't have, like, under individual services, they've got 0 all the way down. And then they've got 3,000 under number of individuals to be served. So my thinking is that they're doing these clinics and serving approximately 3,000 people by way of the 480 clinics that they intend to provide.
So does that mean that there will be 3,000 people attending clinics? Is that how you read that?
If it's 3,000 attending the clinics, then that's about 6 attendees per clinic. I'm taking a look at their administrative calendar.
That interpretation is kind of how I read it, based on the table they filled out.
Okay, we can get clarity as well as a follow-up. But generally for the scoring, I think they fared a little bit higher than.
Mine aren't, I don't think mine was accurate on your
Okay, let me know.
It went away. Oh, okay. Because I thought it added up to 92.
Page 23. 24. Are these individual ones, right? Could you read out or meets or below for them?
Oh, yeah,
Exceeds,
I think we got swapped.
exceeds,
Oh,
exceeds.
oh, I switched out Christina and Will.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because mine's 92.
Yeah, and I was 85. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me just highlight the outlier so we can start our discussion. Okay, I mean, on average, the total score for this project was an 83. I think just reflecting maybe a higher, higher in the individual scoring rubrics. I don't know whether or not we should start with funding priority and work backwards, or if we should start the same way. Eric, preference, or does the committee have any preference?
Let's just go through it. Project impact. I was impressed with the 3,000. I just didn't know what it meant. That's why my score was 15. You could bump it up to 20. I think the number is impressive.
Were there any other considerations for why the other committee members rated as exceeds expectations? It'll just be helpful for guidance.
I think the big thing for me was the amount of people.
Yeah.
I think that's you're getting a lot of assistance out there for the amount of money that they're requesting. That's a pretty efficient application of services.
And I could tell exactly what they were going to do, who they're targeting, and how they're going to do it.
Staff was also persuaded with the way they were able to describe and the impact, or not impact, but the target constituencies for those too.
By the way, my court involvement was a 15, not a 20.
Oh,
It was
okay.
a meets.
Okay, maybe we should talk about court involvement then. So we had 3 at exceeds, and then two commissioners at meets expectations.
Sorry. I was going to just say the heavy integration into court operations and access, and then the coordination with the other DV response providers tipped me over on the court involvement piece.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I agree with that. Yeah, maybe, okay, you can move me back to a 20. I agree with what Will just said.
Oh, okay, then I'll go up to a 20. I'm convinced also.
Wow, okay, this is going by quickly. All right, project, oh no. Or 20s for project impact, administration. I think Christina, you had them at exceeds.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of these projects like this have a full-time attorney dedicated to it. That's what impressed me.
This was another wobbler for me. I was almost an exceeds because of that extensive experience and the on-site attorneys. But it wasn't clear to me who was going to be on-site daily, if that attorney would be, or if not. If we got clarification on that, I actually might be convinced to go up if they were going to be there on-site.
That's how I read it. I thought that an attorney was going to be there full-time.
I think that's right. The page 3 says that the program will be staffed.
No messages.
A staff attorney, an advocate, and volunteer attorneys and students. I guess that could mean that. No, I mean, it sounds like there will be someone on site.
Let's see. So the average score is 6.8, and I think we're trying to avoid decimals, so it'd be a 7. Is that a good placeholder for now, and then we can follow up?
Yeah.
Okay, project budget, 3 exceeds and then 2 meets. Maybe we can ask the folks who rated it as an exceeds as to the reasons why. Jason, go ahead.
I think this is just probably bleed from the financial side of project impact. right? Which is that considering how many people they're helping, you know, it's not a lot of money to help that many people by comparison to something like even the last project we were just looking at, where it's significantly larger amount of money to help a significantly smaller number of people. Granted, it's more complicated work, and you know, there's some logic to that. It seemed like from a budget standpoint, that budget gets you a lot.
And it's all, looks like all personnel. Which is good.
Yeah, the detailed information and the taking into account the services provided by the court were what tipped me to the higher number.
And we did want to ask just in terms of project budget, if like those are the reasons that the committee members had stated would be weren't enough to bump up projects, any projects at an exceeds. I think we may have had past discussion as how does an excellent project budget look like if it's if it has adequate descriptions and it's clear that it's tied to project services. Are those elements persuasive enough to warrant an exceeds rating? Because I think below is very clear, like we don't know where the money is going from. There's the net narrative is unclear or how things are calculated. So I think just getting that distinction between the meets and the exceeds would be helpful, or getting some guidance on that.
So I'll speak for myself and say I actually tend to count the what I would call bang for your buck under impact more than budget, but I would say it's close for me. I'm unsure.
Well, the fact that there was no admin that Christina mentioned, I think that's nice. That is a plus. So
There's, I think, admin staff, there's 16,000 in personnel costs for admin, but there's no non-personnel costs.
Right. They're using other money for their
Oh.
non-personnel.
Is it also helpful that like a project has additional, like other non-PG funds supporting it? Is that also persuasive to maybe bumping up a project to an exceeds, like in that sort of scenario? Is that helpful?
It would be to me that I would think that that's valuable, but that might go more into continuity than project budget.
This one does, but I like that they're using all of our money on personnel to get the services out.
yeah, I would hesitate to give projects a lot. I mean, I agree with that. For that reason, maybe you could bump me up to a 10, but I would hesitate to give projects a lot of credit for using non-PG money, because that kind of just privileges the bigger, richer projects, right? That have the money like a, you know, the public council or whatever, you know, the other big organizations that maybe have some extra money to spend.
Yeah.
So the average takes us to,
You can bump me to a 10.
I think I updated the wrong one. Hold on, sorry. Takes us to a 9. Just Jasko, just checking in. Any thoughts on the project budget?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess I'm still not sure that I see anything that makes it exceed expectations, although I agree that just what would have to be shown for a budget to exceed expectations is not clear. So I'm inclined to leave mine at 6.
Okay, we can carry over the score at a 9. That's the group average. Okay, continuity planning. Sorry, Christina.
I had one remark before you moved on.
Yes.
For calibration purposes, I agree with Eric's remarks on not using PG money for those other important items. And I don't know that that should have a heavy impact. Since we want to make sure that we aren't favoring the just richer projects who can shuffle the money around like that. if that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, continuity planning, I think Christina, you have them in exceeds.
Trying to find my notes.
I'm reminding you, call Janet for a bridge partner.
You got a reminder of my dad's Alexa to call for a bridge partner. So.
You don't want to forget that.
My sister leaves these reminders for him that go off every like hours. Drives him crazy. We'll do that for you someday.
I will need it. I already need it with my dad brain.
I'll need it too.
Just for the continuity planning, I think they, LASC had mentioned Cypre awards, federal state funding, and some other avenues that they may be seeking to sustain the project. However, I think this project has not requested partnership grant funding before, and I think it'll tie into our funding priority discussion as to where this falls in the 1 through 5 ranking. So I didn't know, like, if it wasn't a project that didn't seek PG funding before and had ideas of how
I
they
don't
would.
think I meant to put it.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think
I'll
that's- Sorry.
Okay. I'll be at a 6 then, Christina? Okay, great. And then evaluation, I think we had a couple of 10s here as well.
I'm not too heavily committed to my 10, so I'll throw that out there.
I think the struggle, I think just from on the staff calibration, when we did that exercise, was, again, if it's a project seeking partnership grant funding for the first time, and these are all like plans that they evaluated plans that they plan to do, but of course haven't had a chance to implement yet. What would warrant and exceeds for a newer project if they haven't actually implemented the evaluation yet? Because
it's a level of specificity. If they just lay out a plan, we're going to, like one of them, I think Lisnick actually said they were going to have in-depth telephone interviews with 10% of their clients. That's a plan to me. That's a specific plan. Whereas maybe we'll look at some data, maybe we'll talk to some people. That's not specific.
Okay, you can put me at a 6.
Jason, just checking in.
Yep, I'm 6 also.
Okay. Okay, great. That takes us to the funding priority discussion and where this project would land. I think in this scenario, it is a project that is currently operating, but is seeking partnership grant funding for the first time. Is this a new project according to how the committee will interpret funding priorities and be rated a 5? Or is it a 4 because it is currently operating and is seeking to, I guess, provide full-time services?
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally what I wrote in my evaluation was, it's unclear, does this meet the standard of seed funding?
Yeah. It's a fair point. You can put me down to 16 at least, and 20 is too high.
I guess I should come up to 16.
I can come up to 16 too. I think this is a great project, and that's fine.
So if you come across, I think hypothetically, other scenarios where they're a current project and they're not really looking for seed funding to get the project started, but this is their first time applying for PG funding, would that maybe warrant in the 4 realm, which would be 16 points for funding priority?
I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah,
maybe
I improperly took into account the fact that I considered it responding to a disaster, the COVID-19, and the domestic violence crisis that's kind of come with that. And maybe if that piece wasn't there, I probably would have given it a 3. I don't know if that helps your calibration at all, but that was my thinking.
Okay. We can move forward to innovation if that's okay with everyone. I think Will, you had given 1 point. I guess if you can share your reasons for.
Yes, so maybe it would be helpful if this was just a standard question on the application, but I'm unclear how common access to court records are electronic, sorry, access to court records and being able to use them to confirm the efficacy of a program. That's why I gave them the 1 point, using Zoom to give advice and all of that. And also the access to court records. But to me, that should be the default. Electronic access to court records, but I don't believe it is.
I think that falls
Depends what
along the,
your-
oh, go ahead, Jason, sorry.
It depends what your definition of is. It depends on what records we're talking about, right? I think it's becoming increasingly standard for especially electronic access to be broadened, but in the context, it's a little bit strange in the context of DV and elder abuse and that kind of context with restraining orders, what they would have access to. There's some of that would be more in the confidential or limited unless there's an attorney-client relationship. So I'm as you were talking, I'm like, let me go look and see what access they're saying they're going to have, because that could be interesting.
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, Jason, if you could look, that'd be great. I'll say, like, for example, will family law records are not available to the public online because of, confidentiality issues, and I think that is true for DV, but Jason would probably know better. We can research that. What some organizations have been able to work out, legal aid organizations have been able to work out with their courts are more access, even if they have not established an attorney-client relationship, if they're providing this kind of service. But it's and that is appropriate under the rule, but it's, again, you have to kind of work through those issues. I mean, it's clear if it's the attorney who's getting the record, but in self-help, there's not usually an attorney of record. So that's where it gets a little bit dicey, and it's makes all the difference in the world, right? If you can have access to the court records and know what's happened. So that's the challenge.
Will, do you know if there's a page where you saw that I could go and find kind of the reference? Because I'm not quickly finding it
Looking
as I looked at it.
right now. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I don't mean to make you overly defend your 1 point
No, not at all.
differential.
That's the my 1 point. If we want to come back to it after I've had a chance to find it.
Do we want to move forward with the next project then? I mean, I think that's whether or not we're going to be carrying over the one then, or is anyone persuaded? Because the average is 0.2, which rounds to 0. So I don't. Was that the reason why you had awarded innovation points?
I believe so. The usage of Zoom for advice. It seemed like it was more extensive than other programs, and then the access to the court records to confirm the efficacy of the program. I hope I was looking at the right one. So maybe it's under evaluation.
I feel like my guess is with the Zoom, just because of the court closures, it'll also be something we'll see in this batch of applications. So I don't know if it'll be, like if it's more than what we'll normally see. So not that I'm agreeing with innovation points. I just want to be, if we're going to give one, then I think we'll have to do 1 point and so forth for the other proposals.
I guess if we're deciding, just want to try and find the place where they mentioned it. And we can move on, we can just come back to save everyone time.
Let's move on. Let's let Will keep his one and we can move on. Average it and round it off appropriately.
Sure. So the last one is legal services in Northern California. This is their YOLO consumer clinic. The total amount requested is $39,000, which is their total project budget. Counties serve as YOLO, and it is currently funded. The project seeks to offer a free consumer clinic targeted at the 48,000 YOLO County residents. The staff attorneys will rotate providing services twice a week, one-on-one legal assistance in consumer law cases. The project will also offer mediation during the small claims court calendar with a focus on pandemic, rental debt, and collection cases. So they'll be at Yolo Superior Court 50 hours a month. I believe they're seeking either second or third year funding as well. I'll share my screen on the calibration scores. Oops. And I believe we were mostly aligned in these sections as well, so our carryover.
So if we can move on to project impact, because that's where we have some differences. I mean, I scored them higher because I think they were allocating 0.2 of an FTE on this one to serve 144 people. I thought that was pretty darn good.
Christina, you have them also at exceeds, I believe, for project impact. Do you have any specific notes?
No, the same reason. It's not very much money for all of the work it looks like they're going to do. In fact, part of me was like, well, can we give them more and can they serve more?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, they're actually, wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. They're not operating full time, right?
No, 2 times
So
a week.
that was my thought. It was like, well, could you if we gave you more money? But I think that what they're doing with their ask is excellent.
Is there any, in terms of those who rated this as a meet, any thoughts as to why you weren't compelled to rate them as an exceeds? Or, you know, go ahead, Jason.
I think this is where I have my same kind of issue bleed between project budget and project impact. Like where, like to the same point Eric and Christina were making, like I'm the inverse of them as far as what's meets or what exceeds. And I think the issue is still the same. Like I think that they're doing good work for the amount of money that we're giving them. And maybe I'm putting bang for buck in the wrong bucket. And maybe it should go into project impact and I should adjust my budget downward. But I would be supportive, by the way. It's the difference of 1 point total, I guess, in the average where you prioritize.
Any thoughts from the committee regarding like project budget versus project impact? I see how they're interrelated, but in my mind, I think project budget, when we were looking at, was the line by line items. Are they tied to project expenses? Is the budget narrative clear? And sort of looking at it as just a budget as it relates to the project. So I think yours maybe one level more, maybe will be more appropriate for impact, but I don't know what the rest of the committee.
I kind of agree with what you said, Crystal. I think bang for buck is better than project impact, and budget is more of what you just said. You know, does it make sense? Do the line items make sense? Are they clear? Do you know what they're spending money on? That kind of thing.
So Jason, I just want to take a look to see. I think you had mentioned it was a 1 point difference. Are you comfortable with those changes? I bumped you up for project impact.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, you can bump me up also. This is Lisa.
Okay, great. Will.
So maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. The total number of individuals served was 196. And it's just in proportion to the population of the county. Is that what we're looking at for why the impact is greater?
No, I was looking just at they got 0.2 of an FTE, you know, serving 196 or 100, and that seemed really pretty good to me.
Gotcha. All right, yeah, I'd be fine going up.
All right, administration. Eric, you were the outlier at an exceeds.
Yeah, let me get my reasons for that. I thought that there was a lot more detail on this one about the managing attorney was going to do a lot of work on quality control. She was going to, well, there were going to be weekly meetings where they were going to go over each case, which maybe is pretty standard. But then they also said that she was going to review all closed files for quality control, which I don't know. I thought that was, I didn't remember reading anything like that before in another one, so I thought that was pretty good.
Was anyone persuaded as to maybe bumping up for admin, or what your thoughts were? I think it was hard just because of the small FTEs. I think it's a very like economical like program, and what they're using, that's who they can serve. So I think administration wise, just thinking about past projects that we rated as exceeds, I think there's like a clear structure and a lot of staff supporting a certain project, but definitely if there's additional guidance for their considerations, that would be helpful too.
It seemed like, to me, like, again, maybe he was just reading it the day I read it or something, but it seemed like a more active hands-on role of the administrator in this one to me than in some of the other ones, in terms of reviewing the quality of the work that was being done by staff and volunteers. Anyway, that's my reason.
So the average score is a 7. I think that will indicate slightly below us, slightly above meets expectations. Does the committee feel comfortable with carrying that average score over, or any changes?
That's fine with me. That's where we are.
All right, project budget. I think, Will, you are the outlier now. You have them at an exceeds.
Ooh. So I think I was just, I really appreciated the detail. When I looked at our guidelines, partnership grant review guidelines, it really talked about the line items, convincingly explaining everything, how it was going to get spent. And every single item, they seem to really provide the detail that made it clear where that money was going. It made me almost feel like they're not asking for enough money.
Yeah.
A little, but that they went into that detail. I think that's where it bumped me up. Let me see. I was trying to look at the grant review guide to quote directly, but I can't find it. So yeah, specific detailed budget, a narrative that's helping to explain the relationship between the grant funds and direct costs, and really leveraging the partnership grant money. So I'll leave it there.
Is anyone persuaded to bump up for project budget, or you can take the average score of 7 as well? Okay. We can move forward to continuity planning in case anyone has any. Feel free to chime in. Continuity planning, I think we also have a couple of outliers in each of the rest of the categories. Jason, I think you had them at exceeds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Judge Jaskell probably has the objective right about this, I think, because it's like they're wholly dependent on the program, so there's not a whole lot of continuity planning in the absence. But I think they acknowledge that there's really not a whole lot of funding mechanisms for them to get in the county that they're in. And for those of us who are up in the proverbial sticks, if you will, like YOLO isn't even that rural of a county, right? Like it is, a little bit, there's more of a population there. So even they struggle. So I think what I gave them credit for was that they've actually spent time thinking about how to find funding. This is their only recourse. Now, maybe that's more of a 6 than a 10, but that was kind of my mindset. Was they're just, it wasn't just like, well, hey, we haven't given it any thought. It's really, there's just not much out there to support this kind of program.
I kind of thought it was, they did have a lot of detail, but it was, to me, it amounted to a long sob story. We tried this, we tried this, we thought of this, we thought of this, we thought of this, but basically we can't get any money. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that merited a meets to me, but not an exceeds.
I would be wholly comfortable with the 6. But I'm sympathetic. My bleeding heart is bleeding.
Eric, well, I will say, I think in the past for continuity planning, we've awarded 10s. for projects we were able to secure it and let us know like what amounts and from where. But I think the rural considerations and like the lack of alternative revenue streams have bumped up what would be typically below expectations to a meets. I think just as long as they're able to showcase what they thought about or what avenues they've attempted, I think that in the past has been sufficient for the committee. So if you're comfortable with the 6, I'm happy to update your score.
Look at me. I am a 6.
No, Jason.
Oh,
So I'm persuaded by what I'm hearing, and I guess it's really not fair to rank somebody as a 3 when it's apparently really not their fault. So I can come up to a 6 also on continuity planning.
Great. Sorry, Will, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to concur with what everyone said. I would have rated them a 3, except for that review guideline that says provide detailed information regarding the efforts, which, you know, might be slightly sob story, but that's where I was like, they gave the information that they have been, and if they had been able to secure the funding, it might have bumped it up to a 10, but it sounds like that's not going to be easy. Thank you.
Great. So we're landed at 6. Evaluation, I think we have one outlier.
yeah, again, that was what I referenced a moment ago. They said that they were, in addition to the usual quarterly meetings and everything, that they were going to do in-depth telephone surveys with 10% of their clients, which it may not be the most groundbreaking thing in the world, but it was a little more specific than what we see from most projects to me, which are more in the nature of, yeah, we'll do this, maybe we'll do this. So that was what caused me to give them 10.
So if that was, Eric, if that was a reasoning for both admin and eval, I think maybe selecting one of the categories instead of maybe double counting them.
No, but they're different. No, they're different though. The admin was supervision internally, which I thought was extraordinary by the managing attorney.
Okay.
The eval is evaluation of the program, of the results of the program, you know.
Okay.
There's something I wanted to flag on this as well and see whether it's common. They said that they actually observed the small claims court to determine outcomes of the people they assisted. And that almost bumped me up to a 10, like Eric, but I don't know if that's a common thing or not. So I wanted more context before deciding.
Dan?
I've seen a lot of organizations report that they plan on doing that, but I haven't seen too many actually report that they did do that. So I do think that it's a good sign.
All right, I'd be willing to bump them up to a 10 with Eric to make it more different.
All right, so that takes them up to an 8 for the average score. Can we feel comfortable with this carrying the score forward?
Yeah.
Okay, a funding priority. So in this case, it is a continuing project seeking second or third year funding. I need to double check that. I don't believe there's new aspects to this project. So in terms of where they would land on the 1 through 5 scale or 5 through 1 scale, however way we look at it, is there any guidance that I may want to apply? Oh, go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, Danielle.
I don't have guidance, but I wanted to confirm that it's been previously funded 1 year. They're seeking the second year funding.
Thank you.
It seems to me like a classic second year project, which would merit a 4.
A 4.
To me, that's why I gave them 16.
Let's see. So those who had them at a 5 or 3, would you agree with that, or do you have any thoughts as to?
I'm persuaded by what Eric said, so I can go up to yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's only second year.
Yeah, I think that
Still new.
Yeah, because we guarantee for 5 years, or that's what we sell it as. I think for 5 years, that's why I chose 5.
Well, Christina, let me ask you, because don't we, in the old days, we actually had more standard ways to look at this. didn't we typically give people 5 in their first year, 4 in their second year, 3 in their third year, blah, 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 blah.
We didn't score them, but what I remember is that the amounts tended to taper off after the second year.
So you kept them at plateaued for the first and second
That's
year.
my recollection. And it maybe even the third. I mean, of course, then it also depended on how much money we had.
Dan.
Oh, Dan will know. He has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Christine is absolutely right about that. The intention was to start weaning after 3 years, but we kept on running into situations where the best projects were timing out and they didn't deserve the low grants, or we wound up with more money and everybody got more than they expected. So it was hard to maintain that really strict standard of weaning off.
Okay, but if we plateau in years 1 and 2 and we were to give this project a 20, going back to the first one we looked at, San Bernardino and Riverside, isn't this the second year for San Bernardino and the first year for Riverside?
I think for you're talking about the Inland County Legal Services.
Yeah.
Funded for 2 years, seeking a third year.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so then it is different. All right. I mean, I'd go up to a 20. I think it's a great project, so I'm happy to support it.
For now, second year projects at the 20 at the 5 points or 20 points. We can see how that plays out.
Second year projects that, you know, yeah, well, I was going to say that look really good, but then that factors in the merits, which maybe we shouldn't do, but
Just don't say it.
yeah.
Think it.
I'm just checking. Jason, any adjustments or any thoughts for funding?
I suppose I would be okay with the 20. I was more inclined to be okay with the 16, based on what I saw, even though I'm partial, but I might be.
Actually, you know what? Put me down to a 16. I think I'm going to stick with new projects for a 20.
I may have been, because I am trying to, I might be overcorrecting for personal bias towards the somewhat local program. So I'm trying to do my best to be objective, and I might be overcorrecting.
This takes us to an 18, and I can mark it as red just because I think we're going to revisit the funding priorities, because I don't know how it'll turn out, because it is a difference of 4 points. So depending on how it looks like of what 5 and 4 looks like, it may affect allocations and that process. So if I carry down the average, it's an 18. Is the committee comfortable with that? Okay, innovation. I think we had a couple of folks who scored. Oh, Eric and Christina, 2 points.
I mean, I know everyone's using Zoom now, but for them to be putting together Zoom small claims mediation, just the logistics of doing that, that's why I gave it, you know, because you gotta have different rooms for each person usually. I mean, if they're there, if one person's there, I just thought that was cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, I did too. I just like basically the fact that they're allocating a person to the small claims court as part of their project for 1 day. I thought that was great for mediation. Again, maybe other people are doing that. There were other projects that refer to providing mediation services, but here they're actually allocating, you know, part of their staff to the small claims calendar 1 day a week for mediation, which I thought that was pretty good.
I'm persuaded to bring my score up to 2.
Same.
Sorry, Jason. I'm checking in.
Sure, let's do it too.
Okay, that takes us to Lisnington 83. I'm going to revisit. I think we didn't have this one section here for Legal Aid Society of San Diego for the innovation score.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I found it. Can I go ahead? So in the evaluation section, they say court files in a random sampling of weeks would be reviewed to determine if self-represented litigants followed through with their hearings, submitted appropriate paperwork, and were successful in court. Case file review could provide a means of evaluating whether people were able to successfully do it. So I presumed, and maybe this is wrong, that meant they had to have some higher level of access than just public access. And if that inference may be wrong. What do you, can we just ask them maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to presume, like, I think my presumption was maybe the inverse, which is that they're trying to patch this together through or by way of the publicly accessible documents. And they're just like writing down the case numbers for the individuals and then going to check to see about them.
Okay, yeah, if the court isn't partnering and providing maybe additional access, then I would be inclined to not award any innovation points. But if they are, I, especially after hearing how difficult it might be to get a hold of that information, would be inclined to give them something there. Thank you.
Let's see. So, and taking a look at the innovation, I don't know if you want to make an exception here and carry over the decimal, because it would round out to a 0.2 if none of the committee members want to award innovation points for the specific project. But we can definitely follow up and provide supplemental information. Okay. So just to confirm, Inland County Legal Services 73, Legal Aid Society of San Diego 84.2, and Lisnick's YOLO Consumer Clinic is at an 83 for the calibrated scores.
What was the first one again?
A 73.
Okay.
So I think that completes the initial calibration exercise, but Eric, I just want to share my screen for what's to come.
Yeah, for sure, because we have to assign teams here.
All right, so now that we've looked at 3 proposals, that leaves a remaining 28 proposals divided into 6 sessions, looking at about 4 to 5 proposals per session. It's a pretty aggressive review schedule because we do want to be able to complete initial review and have that ready for discussion by the May 16 meeting. So these are the calibration session dates. Just a sense of how many proposals and the counties that would be served. I can share the master spreadsheet if that will be helpful, if folks wanted to see which specific organizations are up for certain days. Per the follow-up discussion from the February meeting, I think the committee members wanted more involvement in the review process. And so we talked about, I think, signing up for 1 or more calibration sessions, and then you'd be responsible for reviewing and scoring that batch before the session, which would be an ad hoc review team with the staff members.
So we have 6 sessions. Crystal?
Yes.
So the goal is to assign at least 1 commissioner to each of the sessions. And if you take on that assignment, your role is to put the date on the calendar, first of all, but also then to take the proposals or get the information from Crystal about each of the proposals comparable to what we did today, and just be prepared to work with staff and calibrate them. So that's the deal. We're seeing if this works. We haven't really done it this way before, but we'll see how well this works, as opposed to assigning 1 commissioner to review all of them, which is a pretty heavy lift. Although staff is doing that, but.
Jason, go ahead.
Can I personally put my name in for either the 22nd or the 27th opportunities, or if there's a later one, because I have a go live on a new case management system on the 11th. And I will be very, very busy here for the early part of April.
So just
sure. We have until the 29th. Do you have a preference, Jason?
Let me just double check calendar.
And these sessions are 2 to 4 p.m. I'm
gonna opt for the 22nd because right now that is empty on my calendar and I can dedicate Friday night.
I can take the 14th.
I can do the, you, Jason.
I'm so sorry. Are these sessions going to be from 2 to 4 again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and only one session. We don't anticipate having subsequent, so one 2-hour session is what I think we're looking for in terms of expectations.
Is there a Wednesday on there?
Ooh,
27th.
Okay, if I could do the Wednesday.
I also want to be mindful of any potential conflicts, and if there's any orgs we should look at. 27th, sorry.
For Will.
Will, okay.
Yeah, that's the Wednesday.
What's the last date?
29.
I'll take that one. All clear.
So what do we have left? Anything?
We
19?
have the 12th, which is very soon, as well as the 19th. So next Tuesday, and then another Tuesday as well.
Unfortunately, I cannot do the 12th. That just doesn't work for me. And then, am I the one who needs to pick a date? So I can ask to get the afternoon off for the 19th. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that time because there's a coverage issue. But I can ask.
All right, so tentatively, at least on the 19th. So we've covered everything except the 12th. Could anybody else do the 14th if I took the 12th? I'd have to rearrange something, but maybe I could do that.
I can do the 14th.
All right, why don't I do the 12th and I'll rearrange my calendar.
Does that mean?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I can't do the 12th. I cannot do the 12th. No, I can't do that. I'll stick with the 14th.
I mean, I could do the 12th probably, but just not at that time. Are they set in stone?
Let me see. Was there another time frame? Let me take a look. Because we're trying to coordinate on the staff end too. And so I think those were some dates we had, the time frame.
I can do it. 2 hours. I can do it at 10 a.m.
10 to 12.
I could. Or even 11 to 1. So in that range. I just need to be out of there by 1:30. Need to be done by 1:30. And I've got a morning thing too.
Eric, do you recall what Diana's availability was? Was it for the later sessions?
I think it was, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to check our staff calendars.
Could we
I might be.
No, I'm sorry, Will, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I might be able to move to a Tuesday, but I would have to check with another person before I could commit. So
potentially, it looks like 11:30 to 1:30. We can try to wrap it earlier. It's a shorter, it's a smaller batch. They're smaller amounts and they're continuing projects. So hopefully it will be a fast session. Sorry, Colleen and Danielle, I just checked your calendars, but let me know, did I miss any conflicts with that time?
No, I'm pretty much widely available on the 12th, so that's fine.
Okay, that works for me.
11:30 to 1:30 then for that session.
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've got Lisa tentatively on the 19th. Is there anything else that's not covered?
No, I think you have all the dates covered.
Well, Christina, do you have 2 now?
Yeah, I have 2 now. That's okay.
Which is your second one?
The 29th. I'm wondering, I know Diana Cruz is
Yeah,
also
Diana Cruz might have been. Let me see. She might be available for that.
Oh.
So I think it'll be her first time doing the calibration scoring. So I don't know, Christina, if you're open, the 2 of you, it'd be helpful to get some committee member with.
Yeah, I could probably join that one with her as well. Let me just see what she said. I sent you a note yesterday about that. Crystal, but let me see if I have that. I can't find the note I sent to you. I know I sent you a note.
And then just in terms of Joe,
Did you get the note that I forwarded you about Diane's schedule?
yeah, hold on. I have a lot of windows open. Let me take a look. I think we're trying to stay under the 2 committee members max, just because of Bagley Keene. So it would be 2 at most for the session.
I don't think there's a lot of danger that more than 2 are going to jump into any session.
Oh, so Diana can do the 19th, 27th, or 29th. I don't know if it would be.
Oh, what if she did the 19th? Lisa, can you do one of the later ones?
Am I on mute? No, unfortunately, I cannot do the 29th. What is the other one you're looking at?
27th.
27th.
Well, who took the 27th?
Well,
Bill, because he wants a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Maybe we need to stick with that.
Okay, so I'm going to stick with the 19th, assuming I can get permission.
Yeah, let's put Diana on that as well, in case Lisa can't make it.
Oh, okay.
and then did we want to add maybe additional support for the 29th, since Christina has 2 sessions? I don't know, Eric, if you should ask Diana,
Yeah.
or if you wanted to.
Well, you know what? Well, you could maybe put Joe on that one. Well, I'm not sure if it'll be available. It's kind of new baby. I mean, I could do that one too.
Okay. Okay, great. It looks like we have at least one committee member set up. Just for logistics wise, all the session and scoring rubrics and everything will be on the OneDrive folder. I'll send another link. I'll also send calendar invites by the end of this week, so you'll have the Zoom information available. These sessions are not recorded. They're 2 hours and very similar to the exercise we just did. You'll just be working with staff because we'll be the ad hoc review team for that given session. Just trying to think if is there any questions about this scheduling, or
Can you send an email out to everybody confirming these assignments?
Yeah.
And maybe it would be good just to reiterate for everybody what the expectations are that they're going to be reviewing, particularly for those that aren't here.
Okay, in the follow-up email.
Yeah, they're going to be viewing and submitting their evaluations in advance of the meeting, right? That's what you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go ahead and do that. I'm just taking a look at the next thing. This was just the timeline. I know we have 3 grants going on at the same time. I just wanted to flag where we were at the process. I think we're in this April period for the application review and calibration, which we'll be doing. Thank you everyone for signing up. And then we're meeting in May to discuss tentative funding recommendations or flag any questions for follow-up. And then in June, we'll meet to finalize the funding recommendation amounts.
And then do we have our celebration dinner at some point?
That I don't know. Is Elizabeth on the call?
All right.
Second.
All right, so that takes us to the adjournment. Let me just stop sharing the screen. Eric, those are really the agenda. Yeah.
Before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for all the work you did in reviewing these proposals, and providing your input, and contributing to the discussion today. This was really great. Thank you.
It's very informative for us to hear how everybody hears what we've all been reading and looking at. It really goes to show, 6 people touching an elephant, all see it different ways, old story, but this gives us the whole elephant. So thanks very much.
I won't tell you the part of the elephant that I was.
Yeah, we all have a choice. We all have options here.
Doing brave leader.
Aye.
All right, well, Crystal, again, of course, thank you for leading this unruly crowd here. Kind of corralling us and moving us forward. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you look forward to our May meeting when we talk about funding priorities a little bit closer.
Yay. Could we add what's rural versus not rural to that?
That's a
we
really
can.
big question. I don't know if it pertains only to the partnership grants. So worth conversation, but unlikely for resolution.
No,
Well,
I actually think I don't know about a resolution, but I think we can provide more guidance around that.
Yeah,
at the next
yeah.
meeting.
Here, thank you. That would be excellent.
All right, everybody. Is it time to go home? Even though we are home. All right, see ya. Thank you. I think we can adjourn, right?
Everyone.
We done? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. Stay
Bye-bye.
cool. I guess if you're in the
Yeah.
South, SoCal. Jason's probably fine.